Hey, Corona TV viewers, this is Peter Keys from Leonard Skinner. I want to wish you all a happy birthday.
First of all, let's just do the elbow bump because we can't do the handshake right now.
Hello, everybody on Corona TV. This is Macy Gray.
You're smiling, and I saw your beautiful daughter earlier, who I said could come on the show anytime. Welcome, Shiv Singh.
Thanks for having me, Joseph. Great to be with you.
Well, welcome everybody. Happy Monday. It's a great day to be alive. It's a great day because I have a real rock star. Everyone up until now, the first 82 interviews, they've been pretending, but I've got the real deal, the real McCoy, Mark Schulman. In fact, this is just a green screen. He's actually been on this stage. He's the drummer for Pink. He's got such an amazing story. But the story that really intrigues me is the story of his friendship with Bruce Turkel, who's my new best friend. Maybe Mark will be my new best friend at the end. You never know. But it's going to be a great show. I also love unassuming rock stars. Drummer, speaker, author. You're going to find out about what he's written. You're going to find out what he speaks about. And I think you have a good idea what he or who he drums with, I should say. So this week, it's not next week, it's this week. We got Mark today. Nick joins me for Corona Cocktails tomorrow. Then we've got Scott Rouse, who talks about body language, and we're going to specifically ask him about all the tells in the body language associated with our elected leaders with Congress. It should be funny. Ross Bernstein, who is in the sports and sports management field, and then finally Mark Masters. So a lot of stuff and a lot of wonderful people to get to. And if you want to get, as you know, an insider track, all you got to do is text the word Corona TV to 66866 or go to josephjaffe.com/subscribe, and you'll get a good sense of not only what I thought about the people that I interviewed, but who's up next week. I also want to do a shout out for Chris Brogan, fellow streamy. He's doing a West Coast week this week, so he's actually on at the same time as me. So could we be competing against each other? Maybe, maybe not. As you know, I feel very strongly that the rising tide floats all boats. So if you're on the East Coast, you're with me. If you're on the West Coast, you're with him. It's all good at the end of the day, because it's Friendship Day. It's National Friendship Day. And I just want to shout out to all my old friends, my new friends. At the end of the day, it is all about friendship. Speaking of which, I want to just do one more little shout out, which is, can you see what that is? Do you know what that is right now? Well, there's a guy by the name of Steve Woodruff, and he's a friend of mine on Facebook. And he just started this thing. It's a creative thing. Every day he posts something like that, and he says, what is it? And so it turns out, what do you think it is? I don't know what you think it is. I'll tell you what it is. It's actually the sun streaming on a screen, right? On an Apple monitor. Here's another one. Do you know what that is? My wife actually got it. I thought it was a slipper, the inside of a slipper. It was actually a bit of a cold brew. And the reason why I'm showing you all of this is every day I see his things on Facebook. I enjoy it. And I just guess salmon the whole time, because I figured eventually I would be right. And then one day, of course, and Murphy's Law, it's the day that I forgot to check and didn't actually guess. Turns out it was salmon, and it's very obscure. He's an evil person, Steve. Clearly, he's a very evil person because he makes it so obscure. In this case, the reflection of the lights. So why am I mentioning this? Because it is Friendship Day. He actually sent me a gift, a little mug, and he says, now this is salmon. And it doesn't take a lot to get someone's attention these days, to break through the clutter. All you've really got to do is just take the time to care. And for him sending this mug, which is my new favorite mug, it got my attention, and he got a shout out on the show today. I don't think he did it for that reason, but I think, again, this is just designed to show you that during tough times, when you need to break through the clutter, all you got to do is be original. That's all it takes. So very quickly, I just want to wish all my Facebook friends, because it is National Friendship Day, who celebrated their birthdays over the weekend. The same with LinkedIn. There's so many people. And I want to get to my guest, so happy birthday to all my Facebook friends today, my LinkedIn friends today, and one person in particular, my sister-in-law, Lee Jaffe, all the way in Cape Town. And there she is with my brother, with Alan, and with my two beautiful nieces, Olivia and Alexandra. So happy birthday to you. Well, before I get to my soliloquy, and in fact, and I might even skip that. No, I'll do the soliloquy quickly. Just a quick update on fat blogging. I continue to lose weight during a global pandemic. Last week, 185.9. This week, 184.2. Down from 205 at the beginning of the year and just 200.7 at the beginning of the pandemic. So, I'm going in the right direction. I'm going in the right direction. Well, now it's time for the seated soliloquy. I know we started a bit late, and my guest, because he is a rock star, has to leave a little early. So I'm going to get into the soliloquy, which was created, of course, in his honor, and it's all about confidence. I could have taken this in one of two directions, right? What does it take to be a rock star, or the concept of stage fright? In truth, as you'll see from my guest, Mark Schulman, who is Pink's drummer, and so therefore literally a rock star, the two are inextricably connected. So I'll go with what I believe connects them: confidence, inner confidence, self-confidence. I've personally keynoted to audiences all around the world, myself in about almost 50 countries. And I want to let you in on a little secret. I don't get nervous before I go on stage, but I wish I did. Nerves and nervous energy are so important in terms of powering a power performance. It's healthy if and only if it can be overcome and harnessed to elevate and reach new heights. So why don't I get nervous? Perhaps it's because I know my subject matter so well. The more I practice my material and the more I deliver it, the better I get, but also the more relaxed I am in the process. Or maybe it's because I live for this. It fuels me. It's like a drug. By the way, did you notice the words I used? Stage, performance. The comparisons to rock concerts are intentional, but don't worry, I'm not so full of myself that I think of myself as a rock star, because I know I'm not. But maybe I should. Humility is a critical personality trait in life and in business, but on stage, the audience expects to see a performer, not a wallflower. I do have a confession. I actually do get nervous, and it's not what you might expect. I get nervous in business meetings, on a conference call, on a Zoom call. In fact, the smaller the group, the more apprehensive I get. Put me in front of 1,000 people on stage and I'm in my element, but less than 10 and I'm beyond intimidated. I have no idea why, but maybe my guests can shed some light on the subject, especially if it's a spotlight. So rock on, baby. Well, now it's time to bring on my guest. And, there's such a long bio that I could read, and I want to read it because I should read it. But instead, what I'm going to do is show you him in action.
Mark Schulman on the drums! I have worked intimately with some of the greatest artists on the planet, people that I call my friends.
Just like fire, turning up the way.
And they have shared me stories and secrets and methods of operation for performance. Here's what you can learn from my industry. You can change, shift, control your attitude. And the attitude is what drives your behavior. Behavior is what drives the consequences of your life. Passion is what motivates us. You are here because of passion. Passion is what puts you in the seats. So what if you attach purpose to that passion? It not only makes you powerful, it makes you irresistible.
Well, I'll tell you who is irresistible. My guest today, Mark Schulman. Welcome to the show.
Joseph, I got to first commend you on being such a kind man and acknowledging others, acknowledging all the birthdays of all the people on social media, and acknowledging friendships and acknowledging the stuff that is truly, truly valuable. I take that to heart. because I have recently taken on a very different approach because I have so many speaking clients, quote unquote customers, clients. I look at everybody as a relationship because it's funny. One of the things that I do to mitigate the stage fright. Now, there's so many things to address that you talked about that I want to address. But I will say that a little bit of nervousness actually makes you more acute. It sort of stimulates your endorphins. So a little bit really is good. It almost makes you hyper aware and hyper focused. So for me, I strive to have a bit of that because there's an energy that you get, whether it's before a pitch meeting, whether it's before an important phone call, or whether it's before a keynote for 5,000 people like I did for Amway, or whether it's performing in front of 250,000 people at the Glastonbury Festival with Simple Minds. So it really is critical that you allow a little bit of that, and it kind of enables you to settle into this sort of like intense, like a hyper intense state. I look at myself when I'm on stage as Mark times 10. So that is actually what I want to create. And I do the same thing when I'm doing interviews, when I'm on the phone, when I'm doing pitch meetings. It really is sort of an extended version of yourself. And it is really such a wonderful thing. But one of the things I want to get back that you addressed is part of my prep, because, you know, my first book, Conquering Life Stage Fright, which is kind of what you're basing a lot of this on, is it's Conquering Life Stage Fright, 3 Steps to Top Performance. And it's the 3 C's. We call it clarity, capability, and confidence. So of course, the end goal is confidence. So it really isn't about conquering life stage fright, because that's, in a way, that's a negative goal. You're focusing on what you don't want to create. What you do want to create is actual confidence, unadulterated, pure confidence, not false confidence, which can be very dangerous and very misleading. And it really does come a lot from what you talked about. First of all, you have to have a very clear goal about your presentation, whatever it is, whether it's a one-on-one conversation in a pitch meeting. Absolute clarity. The more definitive the clarity, the more then you can refine whatever capability it is you need to develop and you need to employ, because you need real capability. You need to really understand your audience, your subject matter, the state of the industry, the MO, you know, the modus operandi of the people to whom you're speaking. I mean, I speak to a diverse amount, you know, sales, IT, healthcare, insurance. I mean, I need to understand my audience. I need to understand their pain. I need to understand their attributes. I need to understand the state of their industry. So I need to do a lot of research. And I should say I get to do a lot of research, because then when I walk on stage, it's real confidence and an understanding about what they do. I relate everything back. I use music as the metaphor because, you know, everybody's had that dream of, you know, being in your underwear in front of the class. It's that feeling of being unprepared. So if I were to go on stage and not be fully rehearsed for my speech or for my drumming performance, whatever it happens to be, I should be scared. I should have stage fright because I'm unprepared. So the idea is you have absolute clarity about every single nuance. You do the work. You know, it's the quote unquote 10,000 hours that you've built up developing that skill. For me, it's more like 30 or 40,000 hours being on stage at this point. But that leads you to real confidence. And then you have a little bit of angst, a little bit of nervousness, just to generate and just to sort of activate this energy inside of you, a little bit of that adrenaline, which makes you more acute and makes you more focused.
And then, of course, you know, the worst thing that can happen is overconfidence, because when you're overconfident, you become complacent, you become arrogant. I think that's the perceived difference at the end of the day, which is it's subjective confidence too. And whatever insecurity or whatever fears one might have inside, that may not always translate into an audience. And the audience could always misinterpret and read the signs differently. So it's almost like a balancing act in terms of finding the perfect mix between the nervous energy and then that incredible performance, as I've seen you perform on stage.
Absolutely. It's very true. Well, false confidence just means you don't know your stuff. And the reality is, if you go on stage or you're going to give a presentation, you don't know your stuff, the audience knows it. They immediately get it. And it just makes you look like a fool. So if you're trying to pass off false confidence or overconfidence, you're the one that ends up losing. You're the one that ends up getting, you're not providing the service that you claim to be able to provide. I look at every single thing in my life, every bit of work that I do as being of service. I am here to be of service. What I was starting to address earlier is, before I go on stage, I think about loving my audience. I literally put out there, I peek through the curtain and I look at them with love and absolute concern and care in my heart, because these people are not clients to me. These people are relationships. Every bit of success I have had is based on cultivating relationships. So I'm talking to everybody individually, like they are a personal relationship. So to me, nothing is business. Everything is personal. And everything is truly about cultivating and being more concerned about the well-being of your customers, clients, or as I call them, relationships. And that has to do with the due diligence that you do. That has to do with the clarity and the preparation, really understanding their pains, their fears, their goals, their hopes, their dreams. So when you are connecting with such a strong sense of empathy and true love. When I'm on stage with Pink, I am there to be of service to Pink. I need to understand where she's at, to support her, to make sure that she has complete confidence in me. I'm the drummer. I'm the foundation. The entire band is built on the foundation of the drums, of the groove, of the beat. She has to have complete confidence in my confidence. So I need to really understand her. I need to understand her wants, her needs, the needs of every specific song. I'm there to be of service to every band member. For me, it's imperative that I understand and really have a relationship with everybody on stage. And then there's the audience. I'm there to be completely of service to the audience. And the best way I can be of service to the audience as a drummer is really supporting the artist that I'm backing up. I mean, it's a funny experience, but imagine being on stage in front of 50,000 people and not one set of eyes is on you. But they're not there to be on me. They're there to be on her. I am actually there to be a support system. So it's ironic to me, honestly, because people call me a rock star. Reality is, I don't look at myself as a rock star. I look at myself as someone who supports and promotes, and I'm the foundation for rock stars. I'll be your rock star when I'm speaking. I sign autographs, I give away drumsticks, I sign snare drums, I sign sticks. I will be the celebrity to the people because I think that that's an important part of my brand. But the reality is I have no ego attached to it. It's, I think that there are rock stars in every business. I mean, for my last book and for the book that I'm writing now, I am interviewing rock stars in every industry, because every industry, and what I talk about now is hacking the rock star attitude. That's my newest topic, because actually Conquering Life Stage Fright was my old book. I have another topic that I'm focusing on now, but they're all interrelated. So it really is about that everything begins with attitude. And what I'm there to do is I'm there to cultivate and bring out the inner rock star in everything. Why attitude is so critical is because we know we can't control what happens to us, as evidenced by this crazy global pandemic and all the cacophony that's going on everywhere. But we always have the opportunity at any moment in time, we can choose control or shift our attitudes about what is happening to us. And that gives us enormous power because attitude is the foundation for this extraordinary formula. I do everything in triads, clarity, capability, confidence. This is ABC because your attitude is what drives your behavior. Think about that. By shifting and choosing your attitude, you're actually shifting your behavior and to more desirable behavior. And your behavior is what determines the consequences of your life. A times B equals C. Attitude times behavior equals consequence. And I employ this in my life every single day. And I'm interviewing all these rock star performers, from Jeffrey Hazlett, I interviewed a couple of days ago. I'm interviewing Tony V. I interviewed Tony Hsieh, all these different people about how they utilize attitude, how they are creating conscious attitude shifts to drive behavior, to drive consequences, because I utilize this every single day. So I'm a man of formulas based on all the philosophy that I study. And I'm co-writing this book with Dr. Jim Samuels, who's one of the great thinkers on the planet, who actually created attitude, behavior, consequence. But there are so many things we can do to literally shift the way we see things, because your attitude is your point of view. Your point of view, it's not what you look at, it's what you see or perceive that matters. And understanding that you have the ability to shift your point of view where you're looking from, it literally is your vantage point or disadvantage point, depending upon how you view it. And we have that power, we have that choice. And people forget. And so much of our attitudes and so much of our prejudices are based on the stories that we tell ourselves. And we formulated these stories when we were growing up, when we were 5 or 6 years old. Imagine decisions you are making now are based on the stories that you've been telling yourself your entire life. And if your story is, a comedy, good for you. But what if it's a murder mystery? Or what if it's a melodrama? If you shift that story and understand that you have the ability to shift that story and your point of view, that will shift the behavior and the consequences of your life. And this is so powerful for me. I can't tell you how powerful it has been.
No, I hear that, and I want to play back a few things that you said that struck me, because as fellow speakers and authors, I also come into contact with many people that are like me, but I always use the quote, Diane Arbus, the photographer. She said, "It's what I've never seen before that I recognize. It's when things are different that they stand out." So there were 3 things that you said that struck me. Number 1, be prepared. The more prepared you are, the more research, the more due diligence you do, the more not overconfident, but the less likely to give into that fear, that stage fright. The second thing is, you said your audience will always see essentially through you if you're pretending, if you're not the real thing and the real deal. And then the third, which struck me, is the selflessness. You can still be confident, you can still be a performer, but you can be selfless. And for you, this idea that I am at your service, not just Pink, not just the booker at the corporate event, right? The person or the speakers bureau, but every single member of that audience. It's almost like I would summarize by saying you should take this personally, but in a good way. And that is, let me tell you, Mark, I don't think that's typical. I think that's quite atypical. Maybe I should say you're the atypical rock star because of this connection, this empathy that you have.
Well, I will say that I am so blessed because the people in my immediate group, literally the band and the singers for the Pink band, are all such incredibly lovely people that are all so conscientious of everybody else. It's like any other work environment. Being in a band is like being in a team. Being in a tour bus is like being in an office. It's all the same thing. And the more conscientious you are about everybody else. Because you know what I discovered? The truth is that I don't really require that much. As I've gotten older, the more I realize that I'm not a prima donna. If everybody around me is happy, I'm happy. If my wife and my daughter are happy, man, it makes my life so easy. So if you take it from the foundation of being of service. And maybe it's a drummer thing because, as I said, the drummers are kind of like, we're like shepherds. We're like the foundation. I always let everybody else on the bus before me. I let everybody else in. I feel like if everybody else is taken care of, I don't require that much. And then I'm taken care of, then I'm happy. And I think if a lot of people look at it a little bit more like that way, look at your team members, look at your immediate, stratosphere of people, and what is it they need? How can you be of service to make sure? Are you part of doing the work is really understanding people's wants and needs and really checking in with them and understanding how you can be of service to enhance their life. Because the reality is we are all part of a team. Even if you're the leader of that team, oh my God, more than anything else. Like I love what Simon Sinek says, great leaders eat lunch last, because great leaders really take care of their own. This great story about Pink. We were playing in Berlin, Germany, right? 50,000 people, the loudest audience ever, right? And we always ended the set with the song, So What? And Pink would come running out on the stage, and she'd have this harness, and she'd run down the runway to the front of the satellite stage. The two dancers would clip her in with carabiner clips. Attached to each carabiner clip are two high-tension cables that would stretch across the whole of the audience. And they'd lift her up, and then she goes soaring across the audience, doing flips and turns and spins, speeds of up to 35 miles an hour, 55 kilometers, drops of 30 feet, 10 millimeters. And she'd always circle around to the back of the audience so the people in the cheap seats could see the sweat on her brow. And we were in Berlin, Germany one night, 50,000 people. She went running down that runway to the satellite stage. They immediately clipped her in. One of the carabiner clips was turned upside down, and she didn't even know. And so instead of getting lifted up over the audience, in the 2 seconds it took the computer operator to hit the kill switch, she got brutally and rapidly dragged across the stage, across hot lighting cans. She got pulled 6 feet, 2 meters off the side of the stage in what we call the pit, and up against the metal side railing where she was out of my sight. I literally thought I was having a heart attack. It was more stress than I've ever had on stage in my life. The audience was dead silent. The band was dead silent. She was dead silent. I literally thought she was dead. I was panicking. I was having a panic attack. And I heard the sweetest sound. It was the sound of Pink cussing. She was cussing. She was breathing. She was alive. She was angry. What happened next was unprecedented, because her husband, Carrie, had seen what had happened. He'd run down to the pit, and she had Carrie lift her back onto the stage. She was battered. She was broken. He came onto the stage with her. It looked like she had broken her leg. She was leaning on Carrie. She very feebly said to the audience, "Listen, everybody, I'm so sorry, but I think I'm too injured to perform the last song, but I feel so bad. I got to make it up to you. I'm willing to get everybody their money back," with one song left. And by that point, they had brought the stretcher on stage. They hauled her off onto the stage, and then the audience was roaring louder than even before. And I looked at the eyes of the audience, and they had tears in their eyes. It literally brought tears to my eyes. It was the moment that we thought we lost Pink. It was also the moment I realized, wow, we know we cannot control what happens to us, but it is the grace with which we recover from disruption, from challenges, from life-threatening situations. And what did Pink do? She dragged herself back onto the stage. The first thing she did was apologize to the audience. She took full culpability, full responsibility. We had 225 people on the road. Not one person got reprimanded. Not one person lost their job, because she took culpability. She, as the leader, that's what great band members do. That's what great team members do. We take care of each other. And then she offered a solution that was so rock and roll, so far above and beyond what she needed to say, offering everybody their money back. And not one person asked for their money back. But that's what great leaders do. That's what great team members do. We are so committed to our performance. She put the well-being of the customers, the clients, the audience before her own well-being. That's how committed to service she is. These are the people that I'm emulating. These are the people that I study. I'm learning from the best of the best. And Pink is the best.
So you said something. So there are 2 points. There are 2 points I want to make. One is it seems that like attracts like, and a good person, a kind person. I happen to know that the only reason that you're here today is because of a mutual friend who made this wonderful introduction. But it seems the person that Pink is and the person that you are, that you were meant to be part of a band and a family together. And you said she did something so rock star. I think you're forcing me in a good way and people watching to redefine what it is to be a rock star. And it's less about ego and it's more about connection. I think you would call it, because we talk about IQ, right? Intelligence quotient, and now you have people talking about EQ, emotional quotient. You've defined what's called a rock star quotient. So I would love for you to talk about that.
Well, the Rockstar quotient is yet another acronym. I don't want to confuse the audience too much. But what I will say is everything that I've been talking about, to me, that's what creates a rock star in any business. Someone who is selfless. I mean, you have enough ego, obviously, to sustain who you are. You need to put on your oxygen mask first. But someone who is really, really of service, and someone who does all the work, who works their butt off. Every entrepreneur I know, my friend Tim Sanders, who is the Chief Solutions Officer for Yahoo, you probably know Tim, 2-time bestseller. But Tim gave the greatest quote. He said, "What's so great about being an entrepreneur is you get to choose which 18 hours a day you're going to work." I mean, rock stars work their asses off. Nobody works harder than Pink. I've worked my butt off to create this speaking business. I mean, my family goes first, but being a rock star is about working your butt off. It's about being the best at what you do. It's about being selfless. It's about being of service. It's about being compassionate. It's about being loving. That, to me, those are the rock stars I learned from, because that's what Pink is. That's what everybody in the Pink band is. Now, you hear that, and that's the irony of the irony to me is everything I define a rock star to be are all the reputations of the rock star is just the opposite. But for me, I call it Rockstar version 2.0.
Do you think, Mark?
Because it's not sex and drugs and rock and roll anymore. It's like yoga, kombucha, and exercise. The world has changed, and we've changed with it. The model is so completely different, and things are changing so quickly with the way we communicate, the way we transmit and receive information. With COVID, we need to be on our toes. But first and foremost, we need to be of service and so much about each other. And to me, that's what the real rock star is, man. The real rock star is the opposite of what it was in the 60s and 70s. It ain't about me, mate. It's about everybody else. It's truly about love and service and about how much power can you give somebody else.
Right. And that was the question I was going to ask you, which is how have you changed? Have you changed, and how have you changed during this time of COVID? Or has it just become an opportunity for you just to continue on this path that it seems to me you were already on before a pandemic hit?
Well, I look at it so simply. There are two ways to manage change. You either embrace it or you resist it, period. If you embrace it, you are looking for new and unique ways of expression, new and unique ways of branding, of marketing, of doing whatever you can do to be of service and to put forth who you are and what your business is. I mean, I got to tell you, man, in all honesty, because my speech, I mean, I really worked hard. I had 19 speaking gigs in March and April. That's a lot. All postponed or canceled. I've worked my butt off to build this business, right? So And I was so resistant to doing virtual presentations because when I do my presentation, it is I call it a rock show disguised as a keynote. I play drums live. It's interactive. I bring people on stage. To me, it's such an experience. It's not even a keynote. It's like an evolved keynote. So I thought there's no way in hell I could do this thing virtually. And I was resisting. One day I woke up and I said, first of all, stop being a schmuck and remember you are here to be of service. So it ain't about you. So it's your job now to figure out how you can embrace this change, create a virtual presentation that is interactive, that is exciting, that does everything that my live presentation does. So I worked my butt off and I feel like I've accomplished that. The only thing I needed to do was pre-record the drums, but I pre-recorded the drums with my 13-foot green screen with all of this show footage, so it still looks great. And I still have people do all this interactive stuff, whether I could see them or not. I still give away my science narrative. The only thing I can't do is physically bring somebody on stage, but I embraced it. I realized that, man, I'm going to embrace it so much that I'm going to get so enthusiastic and so excited about it, because the more you resist it, what we resist persists. Then you have anxiety and fear. And I learned from a specialist that the chemistry for the body for fear and excitement are identical. It's just our perception and our projection that determines our experience. So for me, I would much rather transfer that fear into excitement. That was also part of the Conquering Life Stage Fright concept, which is you can transfer that fear into excitement. And I do that all the time. I used to do that at the beginning of my speaking career, because I was scared shitless before I was going to go on. And I would say, okay, I'm going to shift this to excitement. How can I be excited about this? And it literally, then it ties into my other concept, it becomes a conscious attitude shift from fear into excitement. How can I take all this energy I have that I'm putting into myself, into my own fear, and transfer that into excitement? One of the things I did is I said, wait a minute, who am I here to serve? Who am I here to focus on? Myself or the audience? The audience, right? So, and then that would get me in a state of kind of laughing at how selfish I was. And I wanted to turn that from being selfish to selfless. That's when I developed this concept of putting love out into the audience, because if I'm directing the audience with love and intention, that way I'm really there to be of service. I get out of my own head. I go on stage and I forget about, it might take me 45 seconds to get through the jitters. I talked to Tony Shea, and Tony Shea says he's nervous every single time. So he has a go-to story because he knows it takes him 45 seconds to get over the jitters, which is fine. You too, and me too, all of us. You go on stage and you're a little bit like, so it's great to have a go-to that you are so good at, that you've rehearsed so much, that you're so confident at, that you can go on stage and get through the jitters and then get settled and focused and in it.
Yeah, that's great. I like that. Whether it's a joke, certainly when we think about the late night talk show hosts, they have people that help warm up the audience for them. But then you have someone like a Trevor Noah who will surprise people by actually coming out and hanging out with the audience for 10, 15, 20 minutes. And a lot of them will say they get a sense, just like this, whether it's going to be a good night or a bad night, whether the audience is warm or not. But when you actually take the time to actually hang out and get to know them, or you have that go-to signature move that not only puts them at ease, right, an icebreaker, but I think what I'm seeing from you is that the icebreaker works both ways. It works both ways. And Mark, I have to tell you, I always bring up a quote, and then I try and fool my guests. Not fool them, but they have to guess who said this. And for me, my goal, maybe this is my icebreaker, is I have to determine the right time to bring it on, and it needs to be relevant. And this is the quote: "Stage fright never goes away." But then I wonder, is the key to that magical performance because of the fear? So do you know who said that? And I'll give you some clues if you need.
Give me some clues because I don't know who said it, but
Well, you have performed with this. You've performed with this person before.
I have performed with this person before.
It is a female.
Wow.
Should I tell you? It's Stevie Nicks.
Stevie Nicks. Okay.
Isn't that a great quote? I mean, in terms of also this connection, another degree of separation from Mark Schulman or Kevin Bacon. Yeah. What do you think about that quote? Would you agree with it?
I will tell you that I believe if you are, whatever works for you, right? So far be it for me to disagree with Stevie Nicks, who's a magnificent performer, who has one of the most devout and loving audiences. I loved playing with Stevie, and I loved Stevie, and I loved the band. It was one of my favorite gigs I ever did. I studied, talk about doing due diligence. I knew her favorite drummer was Mick Fleetwood. So I studied Mick Fleetwood for the longest time, tuned my drums like Mick when I played with her. I did everything I could do to emulate, to create the comfort zone for her, to give her more confidence. But I will say that I think that it's unnecessary. I do not believe you need to be motivated by fear on stage. I mean, fear is a fantastic motivator. Fear will save your life. It'll save your butt when it's appropriate. If someone's pointing a gun at your head, well, damn, what straight you should be fearful. You know, when I interviewed Tony again, he was talking about, you know, maybe back in the day when there were all these eyes on you, that was like that was either another tribe that was going to attack you, or a bunch of saber-toothed tigers or whatever. It was appropriate to have fear. Fear can be a very appropriate and life-saving emotion, but you're also generating cortisol. You're generating things that can be harmful to the body. Whereas if you can shift it to excitement and understanding that the base chemistry is the same. So if that works for Stevie, great. But I think that the reality is she may be getting a little bit of the high off of the excitement and not the fear. Because again, you can almost confuse the two. Because
and you said they're very similar.
Beating quickly, the sweat on the fingertips. I use the roller coaster as the metaphor. You know what? Everybody has that it's that common human experience when you're going up that first incline and your heart is beating quickly and your palms are sweating and you're literally like working yourself into a frenzy of nerves and of fear, because that's part of what creates the experience. And you get to the top right before you go over your greatest fear, and then you go whoosh and you drop down and you get this rush of fear, and all of a sudden you hit the bottom and like whoa, it shifts to excitement, and you kind of go between fear and excitement the whole time. And what's the first thing that almost everybody says when you land in a roller coaster? I want to do it again, because it's a rush. So both fear and excitement give you a rush. So from that standpoint, she is sustaining a continued rush, which I think is better than being complacent. To me, the last thing in the world I'd want to feel is nothing on stage.
You know, they say
true fear of mine, like you talked about that earlier. I want to feel a little bit of angst when I go on stage. I want to feel the continued excitement. So it is critical to keep yourself engaged, to have that heightened sense of awareness. And if you got to get it through fear, well, get it through fear. I'd rather get it through excitement.
So if I had to summarize what you just said, which is, and I love the analogies between work, life, and then of course this metaphor. You know, my privilege is to talk to someone who's performed on stage at such an incredible level. But you know, I often say to brands, for example, which is love and hate are polar opposites, but they're feelings. The worst thing that can happen is your customer feels nothing, is indifferent, is apathetic. And so when you said the worst thing that you can feel on stage is nothing, but the thing that struck, you know, the thing that I take away from this, Mark, is You know, they say success is a choice. I guess everything's a choice. Confidence is a choice. Stage fright is a choice. Fear is a choice. It's how you deal with it. It doesn't go away, but you can choose whether it becomes the obstacle that doesn't allow you to pass, or whether you choose to figure out a way to go around it.
I love it. And that's absolutely true. And that goes back to the concept of creating an attitude, of shifting your attitude, because an attitude, everything is a choice. I agree. I mean, sometimes things might be out of our control. But we're talking about within the realm of most reasonable emotional decisions and moment-to-moment decisions, they are choices. And that's why I love the concept of being able to choose and shift your attitude, because your attitude is the foundation of the behavior, remember? So that to me is such a powerful choice, because you can choose the attitude of anger, you can choose the attitude of joy, you can choose the attitude of love, you can choose the attitude of determination or rebelliousness. Anger is a very powerful emotion, but there's a flip side to anger. One of the things we're touching on in our book, which is Dr. Jim's concept, which is the MO scale, the modus operandi scale, which is where you hang out, either fundamentally or at different times. And a lot of people hang out in the MO of anger, but the negative side of anger is rebellion, whereas the positive side of anger is determination, right? Very, very different actions you would take. So someone who is angry and determined, they may not be fun to be around, but they can get a lot of stuff done. But if you're angry and rebellious, that means you're the effect of the wrong cause, and you're literally just destroying stuff and destroying people and destroying relationships. So if you are conscious enough, even if you're angry, to select the attitude of determination over rebellion, at least you're on the positive side of the spectrum, and you can use that anger and that angst to do a lot. I mean, Black Lives Matter is a perfect example of that. I mean, it's pent up anger and pent up hostility from decades and centuries of oppression, but it's being triggered into something, into a cause that is rather than being, there are destructive tendencies, but you can see the difference. Because inside this Black Lives Matter movement, as an example, without getting political, and this is just as an observer, this is without any a political opinion, you see the determination and you see the rebellion. The rebellion is very destructive. The determination is very powerful and actually takes it to the next level of the intended result, which is awareness, which is equality. So that's a perfect example of two very different attitudes, but that are right next to each other on the MO scale.
Mark, you're a fascinating person, because you might have been introduced to me through the Rockstar drummer door, but it's quite clear and apparent that you are a scientist, a researcher, a philosopher, a corporate whisperer. I love the multifaceted dimensions to you. I know you have to leave in a few minutes, but I want to make sure that I ask two questions. And when your new book comes out, you can come back anytime. I would love to welcome you, and maybe I'll bring Bruce on as well. We'll get the whole band together, so to speak.
Acknowledge Bruce. The reason why I'm here is Bruce Turkel, who is obviously a dear friend of both of ours. Bruce Turkel is a gentleman I met when he was part of a big mastermind group, and I was speaking to this mastermind group years ago in Florida. And Bruce and I immediately bonded, and Bruce not only took notes on everything I said, but he was drawing caricatures of me. We immediately became buddies. This was in, on one of the islands, one of the Keys, I believe. And then when I we became such good buds so quickly that when I went back to Miami, I went and sat in with his band because Bruce is a branding maven. He's one of the branding experts. He's been on television over 400 times. He's had best-selling books. He's one of the great speakers. I've watched him speak probably 5 times. A dear friend, a great thinker, but he plays the shit out of harmonica as well. So I sat in with his band because I just thought, I just love this guy. And I quote him in my speech because one of Bruce's quotes, and I actually modified it slightly because his quote is, people don't choose what you do, they choose who you are. I added a little bit. I said, people don't choose or buy what you do, they choose or buy who you are. But that is such a brilliant quote.
I love the riff.
And that is the foundation of my belief system. It's about who we are. Who you are is vastly more important than what you are selling or peddling or the shingle you hang on your roof. So Bruce is an example of that. He lives and wonderful man. And Bruce, bless you, my Jewish American brother.
You will see him
some Jewish holiday that I hadn't even heard of. He's more of a super Jew than me, that's for sure.
Well, Bruce and I can get together on Passover, and you're welcome to come and join our Seder. But before
where
I do,
where are you?
I'm in Connecticut, in Westport.
Okay, I'm in Los Angeles, so we're 3,000 miles away.
If ever we can fly again.
Yeah.
Mark, I'm going to let you go in a second, and I'm going to, while you're answering just this final question, I'm going to flash different ways to connect with you and get in touch with you. But I feel the best way to leave this is this newfound insight about the selflessness of what it is to be a real rock star. One of the questions that came in was from Jan, and he said, how might you relate stage fright to a drum solo? So being on stage, being part of a team, a family, being of service to Pink, but at the end of the night, the spotlight is on you, and all eyes are in fact on you. Does anything change during that moment when suddenly all eyes on you, or do you relish in that glow of having your moment right at the end of a job well done and a hard night's work?
Well, Jan, thanks for the that's a great question. I'm actually not the biggest fan of playing drum solos. I enjoy more playing with the band, and I do get a little bit of a rush of stage fright before the drum solo. But it's a fun expression, and it's a challenge for me. It's a welcome challenge, because to me, the idea of a drum solo, you can either play a lot of chops, or you can keep the audience engaged. And when I've done drum solos, I'm playing to a pop audience. And the drum solo, the joke is the drum solos when they go get a beer. So my idea is I want to keep them, I make it about them. So I do funny things. The last time I really did a big drum solo was in Foreigner. And I used to pick up a mirror and act like I was looking in the mirror. And I used to act like I was drinking something. And I would stand up and I'd get the audience clapping. I wanted to engage them. So even my drum solo wasn't about all the chops I could play. My drum solo was about how much service can I be to that audience. So I created a very flashy, rather than one that had a lot of finesse and chops, so to speak, I created one that would engage the audience. That's what it's about to me.
Well, this has been, I know we started a little bit late. We figured out you're so advanced.
Fine.
Huh?
We'll keep going. It's great. Having too much.
Oh, that's awesome. So does that mean I can get you to join us for the Zoom after show a little bit?
Yes. I just need to move. I just need to move
you're giving me a gift right now. I appreciate that, because anyone who is going to come to the Zoom after show, which is small and intimate and cathartic, they were just going to have to get me, and I am no rock star, although I do play one on TV. That was my way of stalling.
You're wearing your Fender
I am
T-shirt, which is rocking.
I have.
Man, I'm gonna get Gretsch to send you a Gretsch T-shirt, because that's my drum company.
I will wear it proudly. I've had the privilege of singing in my own little corner of the world, School of Rock. I've done a few School of Rock performances. My favorite was still, I mean, The Who, The Stones. I sing and I'm learning to play the guitar. I don't think I'll ever learn how to play the drums. I just don't think I have the coordination.
You know what?
But
When I do my live presentation, I get one random volunteer from the audience, and I guarantee them that I can teach them how to play a Pink song in 3 minutes.
what?
So, come on, buddy. 3 minutes, I can teach you how to play a Pink song.
You think, well, you know, now at the Seder with Bruce Turkel, we're also going to have a drum set. We just keep building. We keep building.
Yep, we will. I love it. It's great.
Well, Mark, this has been great. I mean, the first question I ask you in the Zoom after show is going to be, what made a drummer decide to become the corporate whisperer, make this transition? And I have to say, you know, I'm not saying this gratuitously. Seeing how hard you work and how passionate you are, it's not something that you see every day. The fact that you have dedicated yourself now to becoming the best possible virtual speaker, you know, your eCam setup, your background, let me show it again. I think that just shows, I mean, it's work ethic, and it's not indicative of every person. It's obviously there's something in you and in how you were raised and your past that just makes you a consummate professional and says, hey, whatever I do in life, I do it well, I do it as best as I can, I do it with joy. I think a lot of people can learn from that. I really just wanted to say that to you.
Oh, thank you, mate. That means a lot to me. You know, I gave my first drum clinic. So that's when it's a drummer teaching a bunch of drummers in a school or a music store. I've given over 1,000 of those. 1991. I talk about being nervous, but I got up, I did it, and I realized, wait a minute, I have a bit of a gift for this, and I give that. I get that from my parents. I give my parents all the credit because they were both college professors. When I was 19, I was a grammar and composition tutor. And my mother gave me my own class illegally to teach because she had enough confidence in me, an ESL, English as a Second Language class. So I got the bug early. And then when I did the drum clinic, I realized, wait a minute, and I could do this. And then I realized after a while, people were relating more to the success coaching and the stories than all the chops I was playing. And then I got to give credit to my buddy, Dom Famularo, who we call the drumming ambassador. Dom was the first drummer to write a motivational book called Cycles of Empowerment. And we were doing a drum clinic tour together. And he told me the story. He said, you know, I was doing a drum clinic and this guy comes up to me. He said, oh, my kid's here. I took my kid to this drum clinic, but you're so motivational and I own a little corporation. Can you come and speak for my corporation? He said, I think I got about $7,000. You know, we're making like $500 a drum clinic. And he's like, of course. So in the back of my head, I always thought I could do that. I believe that I could leverage my celebrity, again, to be of service. The celebrity is not something that I believe I am or live as. When I wake up in the morning and go, I'm a celebrity drummer. But it is leverage to have a platform to be able to communicate. And I'm very philosophical. And all my philosophy is just from studying, from learning. So much of this stuff I learned from Dr. Jim. And every day I'm listening to Tom Bilyeu and all the people that he interviews. And I'm listening to all these different podcasts with all these different people. And everybody from Ray Dalio to Tony V to Wayne Dyer, for God's sakes. You know, I learned everything I possibly can. Reading a book from Dr. Joe Dispenza right now. So for me, it's just kind of become who I am. And I realized that I can do this, and why not? Because I don't like to be bored. I'm the guy that's on the road always wanting to do something. So other people may be going out and walking around and seeing the beautiful cities, which I do when my family comes out. But I'd rather be writing a book or writing an article or coming up with a newsletter. That's just kind of the guy I turned into. As a kid, I wasn't that way. As a kid, I was like, play drums, you know, try to go out with girls. But it kind of shifted. And I just realized, you know, I can just start to actualize possibility, and just start to become aware of possibility. And I feel like when there's all this wonderful possibility out there, and I can take advantage of it, that's what I do, because I enjoy it. You know, I've been doing so many interviews lately. People are like, what's your hobby? I don't have a freaking hobby. My hobby is what I do. You know, my hobby is this, and being with my family. You know, taking my 10-year-old daughter surfing. She goes surfing every day because there's no camp. So that's her camp, is paying for a surfing lesson every day. And we got a little bearded dragon, and I feed the bearded dragon and go and spend, you know, buy live crickets and live roaches every couple of days and spend time. You know, my family's my hobby. It's like the people that I love, and then being able to learn how to express that love to more people. And I love my management. I love Arnold and Leanne from Ode Management. You know, we work so well together, and why not just become who I am? And it's what I cultivate. And it's a conscious decision. It's an attitude shift. Every morning I wake up, the first thing I do is smile, because I know that when I smile, I'm literally creating a physiological shift. When you smile, you're generating hundreds of muscles in your face that literally send endorphins to your brain and activate your body. And then I think of 3 things and 3 people for which I'm grateful, because gratitude unto itself is one of the most powerful attitude shifts. And I teach people how to use gratitude as an attitude shift when I speak, because gratitude is it's one of the foundations for greatness and living a great life. And it's become very popular these days because I think a lot of people are realizing that, you know?
Yeah. And you know, like, at the beginning, you'll notice I didn't ask you what your hobby was. I didn't even go there, because, I mean, as someone who started a streaming web show at the beginning of the pandemic, every moment of my life is spent trying to craft a new trade. While you've moved into the virtual speaking, I've moved into virtual hosting. Yeah. But there's a common thread, you know. As I said, the beginning, the word was passion, but the word that comes out of it is joy. If you don't have joy in what you do, and with you, it's joy coupled with this real hunger to continue learning every single day from a new source, in a new, you know, with new audiences in new fields. So this has been illuminating for me. I'm sure for people watching. Mark is very graciously, he moved things around. He's going to spend a few minutes with us in the Zoom after show. But if you want to find out more about him, and why wouldn't you, just go to markschulman.com. You can follow him on Twitter at MarkyPlanet to book him and just find out what a nice guy Arnold is, because he certainly helped me. We didn't know where you were at the beginning. You were on the Zoom after show. Thank you, Arnold, for helping as well. And of course, because he isn't the hardest working man in the business for nothing, he also has a newsletter. And I created that little link for you. So if you go to bit.ly/CoronaTV Schulman, you'll go straight to Mark's sign-up sheet, and you can continue to stay connected to him that way. Mark, it's been a real pleasure, and hopefully you'll spend a little bit, just a few more minutes with us in the Zoom after show. Come back anytime. You're always welcome here.
Oh, thank you, brother. What a wonderful time. And you are, talk about a man who does his due diligence with all the graphics and everything all prepared. Very impressive. Very impressive. Thank you so much for that.
You're so welcome. And I'll be back tomorrow. We'll be in the Zoom after show. And I have a little treat for you guys. I have a new outro for the show. In fact, my first outro for the show. And if you look carefully, you'll see our mutual friend, Bruce Turkel. Bye, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Bye, brother.
Thank you for watching Corona TV with your host, multiple author and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. Corona TV is the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing. The after show on Zoom starts right now at bit.ly/Corona TV After Show. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show at coronatv.show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, text Corona TV to 66866 or visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
and despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.